Okay, good morning. So last week we talked about the Pythagorean theorem, and we just got our feet wet a little bit with that with some online videos just showing the relationship in right triangles between the side lengths. So just see if you can recall in a right triangle, what are the legs and what is the hypotenuse? Where are they found? What's the relationship between them? So which ones in this triangle, x, y, or z, are the legs and the hypotenuse? So hopefully you recall that the legs were the two shorter sides, and they're the two sides that make up the right angle. So they are the shorter sides. Sorry, my writing's gonna be wonkier than usual. I sliced my finger open, so we'll see how that works. And then my hypotenuse is going to be the longest side, and it's opposite my right angle. So we can draw a space directly across from the angle to get there. It's opposite the right angle. And really the important part today is the hypotenuse is the longest side. All right. So in my formula, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, the c is going to be my hypotenuse, or the longest side, or the largest number. So we want to make careful attention to identify which numbers are largest number. All right, so our goal today is we are going to be figuring out if side lengths create a right triangle. So given three side lengths, are they a right triangle? All right, let's give it a try using our formula. So if I have a triangle with side lengths 7, 24, and 25, all right, if this is a right triangle, which side could be our hypotenuse? So remember, the hypotenuse is the longest side. So that means it has to be the largest number. So the hypotenuse would be 25. So we want to just get into the habit of today circling our hypotenuse, our largest number, so that we can tell it apart from the legs or from the other side lengths, because it's going to be important to differentiate between it. All right. So let's recall a squared plus b squared equals c squared for a right triangle. So is the 7, 24, 25 triangle a right triangle? So let's just say, so c is our hypotenuse. So c has to be 25. And it doesn't matter which leg is which. We'll just call it a 7 and b 24. So figure out 7 squared, figure out 24 squared, and then figure out 25 squared. Does 7 squared plus 24 squared equal 25 squared? Take a minute, get a calculator, do that yourself. Okay, so the answer is yes, because 7 squared is 49, and remember that's 7 times 7. 24 squared is 576, 24 times 24. By the way, you are allowed to use a calculator here. No pressure to or not to, but you are absolutely allowed to use a calculator here. And those of you who are watching me on mute, because I know you exist, calculator is a check. You may use a calculator. All right. So 24 times 24 is 576, and 25 times 25 is 625. I do not expect you to memorize any perfect squares. I want you to know this one, but if you don't know 24 times 24 in your head, that's really okay. All right. So we're just going to keep moving on. We're going to keep practicing these examples. We're going to hopefully keep this video a little bit short, but also pretty basic so that you can refer back to these examples if you need to, all right? How did I determine if that was a right triangle? I squared the sides. I figured out which one the hypotenuse would have been because it's the biggest, and then did squaring the sides, squaring the legs, add together, and get me the hypotenuse squared? Yes, it did. All right, so next example. So consider a triangle with sides square root of 8, 12, and 100, and square root of 126. So these ones, it's not like I'm intending to trick you with the roots. It actually makes your life a little bit more convenient in some regards. We'll get to that in a minute. So, which side could be the hypotenuse? All right, so I want to take a minute and think about which of these numbers is the biggest. All right, so let's think about our strategy from before so we can do this in our heads. Again, you could just use a calculator to figure out which one is the biggest. could use the calculator and ask yourself which is biggest. And that'll certainly tell you. That's no problem with that. Or I can use my number sense. So the square root of 8, that is between, let's see, 2 and 3. 12 is 12. And the square root of 126, well, let's see, 11 squared is 121. So it's a bit more than that. And 12 squared is 144. So it's like 11.2-ish. So it turns out my hypotenuse would be this. So 12 is the largest, so that could be my hypotenuse. So now, is it a right triangle? Is a squared plus b squared equal to c squared? So my two legs are the square root of 8 and the square root of 126. And this is where the square roots being not so bad help us out, actually. So it turns out the square root of 8 squared is 8. Because remember, squaring and square rooting undo each other. And the square root of 126 squared is 126. Because again, the square and the root undo each other. And 12 squared is 144. So 8 plus 126 is actually 134. So it's not equal. So no, it is not a right triangle. And if you can do that, you can pretty much do the exit slip. We're going to do 7 more practice ones below. All right. So I'll show them for you, and I'll let you pause it for a bit. Then I'll just show you each of the answers. So practice, which sets of sides are sides of right triangles? And I want you just to circle the longest side or think about which one is the longest side for each of these. Well, you can't really circle it because you don't have this paper, and I handwrote it, so I don't even have an online version of it. But I'm going to circle the longest side for you, and you're going to think about which side I could circle. So pause the video right here, so that way you can have time to do all this math on your own. Have this in like a separate tab and have the Desmos calculator open, and then check your answers in a few minutes. Okay, so glancing through, the ones you should have said yes to were A, B, D, E, and H. So those 5 should have worked. So I'm going to go through each of them sort of zoomed up a bit because my math writing is, a shocker, kind of messy. I'm going to see quickly what I did, and then you can try the form. So for letter A, oh dear, there's a shadow. I guess I used my upstairs lighting. I might use my kitchen lighting. Hold on. That's acceptable. Okay. So for A, we have my legs of 3 and 4. And 3 squared plus 4 squared is equals 5 squared. So 9 and 16 gets me 25. Because 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16. And 5 squared is 25. And 9 and 16 gets me 25. So that works. And for B, my hypotenuse would be 10 because it's the largest number. So does 6 squared plus 8 squared get me 10 squared? 36 and 64 gets me 100, so yes. For C, notice 2 plus 5 is 7. Don't say yes quickly because we have to consider the squares. 2 squared is 4. 5 squared is 25. 4 and 25 is not 49. All right? Here, the square root of 2 squared is just 2. Square root of 2 squared is just 2. And 2 I know has to be the largest because the square root of 2 is actually between 1 and 4. I'm sorry, between 1 and 2. Because 2 squared is 4, so the square root of 4 is 2. So the root 2 is a bit smaller than that. So 2 is my hypotenuse, and that actually is a right triangle, root 2, and 2. And then E is a right triangle because, again, root 12 is between 3 and 4 because 3 is the square root of 9 and 4 is the square root of 16, so that's got to be right in the middle. And root 12 squared and root 13 squared, is that equal to 5 squared? Well, root 12 squared is 12, root 13 squared is 13, and 5 squared is 25. So 12 plus 13 equals 25. Yes, that's true. So that is a yes. And over here on the right, it's really more of the same reasoning. 11, root 11, root 15, and root 19. Square root of 11 squared is the... Oh, I messed up my math. Hold on. The square root of 11 squared is 11. Square root of 15 squared is 15. And the square root of 19 squared is 19. So does 11 plus 15 equal 19? The answer is still no, because 11 plus 15 is not 19. Then down here, 4, 10, and the square root of 104. Well, let's see. That's the root 104 is the largest because the perfect squares it's near are, let's see, the square root of 100 and the square root of 121, which is between 10 and 11. So this is larger than 10, only a little bit, but a little bit larger than 10. So is that a right triangle? Well, let's see. 4 squared is 16, 10 squared is 100, root 104 squared is 104. So that answer is no, they are not equal. All right. Hopefully it's pretty straightforward, making a little bit more sense to you. Feel free to watch this at a slower speed if you need to like take what I'm saying better or rewatch any part of it. So then part H, again, root 20 is between 4 and 5. So 6 is the largest side here. So root 20 squared plus 4 squared, is that equal to 6 squared? I don't know. Root 20 squared is 20. 4 squared is 16. 6 squared is 36. 20 plus 16 is 36. So this is a right triangle. So try that form. Hope this video was helpful and clear and short enough that you're able to watch it again if you need to. Again, please don't be spending more than... If you're spending more than our class time on this, email me, because there's no reason you should be doing that. Take a break. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out later if you're not finishing them, okay? Enjoy your day.